this up, fellas. First of all, let's say congratulations to Mr. McKay. Come on, give him a little round of applause. There's no other way to start this today. Do you want to tell us why we're congratulating you?
I'm assuming because I'm engaged.
Yeah. No, because of the dog. That's what I want to tell you about.
I got a dog.
And got a dog. He's living the freaking life.
Jeez.
Well, how'd it go? I haven't really even heard the story on how it went.
It was good. It was scary. I really didn't I kept myself from getting anxious and worried about it by not thinking about it.
Just pretending it wasn't going to happen.
Right. Yeah. So didn't start freaking out about it until about 10 minutes before I proposed.
When you say freaking out, what do you mean?
Like anxiety, like not freaking out in the way that you're trying to twist it.
No,
No,
like that.
I don't want to.
No, I'm asking like physically. Were you shaking? Because all I can think about you is just you curled in a ball, crying like just hysterically.
No, I was just driving, and
thinking about whether you should swerve and kill you both, or.
But yeah, it was really cool. We were just driving down there, and one thing that helped distract me was we ran across a bunch of deer, turkey, and wild horses on the way down to the valley to propose. So that was really like a great distraction for like kind of my mind to think about and talk about. But the last, like I said, 10 minutes, we were just kind of going down there, and I was just thinking like, what do I say? And then I was mad at myself in that moment because I hadn't taken the time to think about what to say. I'm like, you fucking idiot. Like, you've had 2 months to come up with something to say. And I kept telling myself, oh, just do it in the moment. And then I'm in the moment, I'm like, God, shit. Should have fucking done it. But, I don't know, it was really cool. We get down in there. We're just kind of looking around. Like I said, there were the wild horses were down there. They'd kind of moved closer to where we were. And I was I love her to death. But it was kind of annoying. She kept asking. Well, as soon as we get down, like in a valley, so I proposed to her down in this big valley. It's really cool. We go down there, we shoot our guns and things like that. And as soon as we pull down in the valley, I park, I turn the Ranger off, I go like undo the bed, we sit on top of the like tailgate and everything, and she's like, your mom was making sandwiches, I'm hungry. I was like, all right, well, like I'm trying to start the mood right now, and like and then we start talking a little bit about how like crazy it was. Like a year ago we started talking. And then Thanksgiving last year, we came up to the cabin for the first time, and I was like, that was where you shot your first shotgun and this and that. And she looks at me, she goes, I think I'm ready to go. I'm hungry.
Wrap this story up.
Yeah. So I just kept like, all right. Like kept trying to extend it a little bit longer to build the balls up to ask her. And I finally, she said it again. And I was like, all right, Elise. I was like, can I ask you a question first? And she was like, yeah, what? So I got down on my knees and asked her, and
that probably took like 3 minutes for you to get down on your knee.
Give me a second.
So I'm just going to leave this out.
Did you fall?
Almost. So she's standing on top of like this little mound. It was really weird, but standing on top of this little mound. And so when I went to go down on a knee, my toe, I kicked the little mound that she was on. So I, instead of like doing like the typical like taking a knee at football practice or whatever, it's like my knee was like right next to my other heel on the ground. It was like,
it just like squatted down.
Yeah, pretty much. Like caught myself with my hand. But it was really cool, man. She was excited. I opened the box and asked her, and she just grabbed the ring out, took her ring off, and she goes, "What do I do with this?" And then like puts the other one on. She was like, "I just stole your thunder, huh?" She was like, "You're supposed to put that on me, right?" I was like, "Yeah, I am." But it was cool, man. And then we stood down there and took some pictures and just kind of absorbed the moment, and it was really neat. And then got back, my parents had champagne and everything ready for them, and I drank some Welch's cider.
Hell yeah.
Popped a bottle.
Yeah.
Sparkling cider.
But it was cool, man. It was really cool, and I was very happy I got to spend it. You know, we got to experience that in Cloudcroft at my parents' cabin, and it's a beautiful weekend.
That's really cool, man. So nobody else was down there with you guys? Or it was just you two?
When I proposed, it was just us two.
Yeah, because that's what I was looking forward to, is like the video of it or something like that.
Well, so we had planned on like Elise and I going out, and then my brother-in-law and sister following us, like shortly behind us. Mm-hmm. And like I was gonna text them like, "Hey, I'm about to do it," and they would come up, and like after I'd like already kneeled and asked, and they were gonna start like videoing, and then while my sister's taking pictures and that kind of stuff. But it was just kind of like we had planned two separate places to do it. Mm-hmm. And then in the moment, you know, we get back to the house, my brother-in-law and I was just like, man, that I want it to be more intimate. I want it to be just us private. Two. And I'm going to take her to a place that we will be able to go to forever. Mm-hmm. It's right down the road from my parents' cabin. I was like, this will be our little place we go to, because we already go there every time we're there. Mm-hmm. And just chill and hang out and talk. So it was ended up working out the way it was supposed to.
Yeah, I thought about that, and then whenever it kind of, like, you told me that all you texted me was, I don't remember exactly, but it was something basically along the lines of she said yes. I can't remember because I was trying to convince you that she was going to say no. And I don't remember exactly what you texted me, but that's all I saw. And then I was like waiting, thinking like somebody would post something or something like that. And then I realized that it wasn't going to happen. It was just like she just posted a couple of pictures, whatever. And I was like, well, okay. I mean, I figured it was because of that, the intimacy thing. Yeah. And I really like that a lot more than probably because I think so many fucking people are just like posting everything that they're doing online, and the proposals all online, everything like that. And then I did watch The Social Dilemma. Nice. And and now that I've watched that, it's like I'm glad that you guys did it that way, and I think it's really cool that y'all did. So
yeah, and I know, and she's. Like, I always make fun of her and say, like, she would want it to be like that, but she's really not. Like, she's really, like...
Pretty private.
I'm not low-key. I can't believe I said that, but...
Low-key.
Low-key, bro.
She is, though, you know. So, yeah, it just worked out great. I'm glad she,
said yes?
Yeah. She was,
agreed.
I was convinced by an asshole that she was going to say no.
Only reason I wanted to convince you of that was because I knew that you wouldn't, or she would not say no. She was definitely going to say yes. Unfortunately.
Well, did she get her sandwiches?
Okay, so
very good question.
When we get back, she didn't eat a sandwich. She ate a little bit of crab salad, and that was it. She just had a couple bites, and then she was like, "I'm not even hungry anymore."
Yeah, because she just committed the rest of her life away to you. I would probably lose my appetite too.
What an asshole.
Oh man, I'm good. I'm glad. I kind of wanted to save a little bit of that because I knew a little bit of what had happened, but I wanted to save it for when we got here to talk about it with everybody else and on the mics and stuff like that, because I really did want to hear what happened, and I just never asked. It wasn't because I wasn't interested. It was because I wanted you to tell everybody here at the same time. But that brings us to these two guys who are just sitting here awkwardly between the two of us.
I asked a good question. What do you mean?
Yeah, I know. You interjected yourself, so it's time to introduce yourself.
I'm Pat. I'm a house manager at the Roosevelt Residence.
I'm Phoenix. I'm a house manager at the Wilson house.
Yeah, so these two guys are the live-in house managers for our sober living homes. We've got 2 locations, like you said, the Roosevelt and the Wilson, and that's just how we distinguish the 2 places. We named them. The Roosevelt's named after Theodore Roosevelt and his quote on Daring Greatly by what's her name? Brene Brown talks about a lot. I chose that name specifically because of her, and then all of a sudden forgot her name. But Brene Brown's a shame researcher. She's an incredible speaker, incredible researcher, and she talks a lot about Theodore Roosevelt's quote on the man in the ring and how. Anyways, I don't have it memorized. It's a long quote, but it was really impactful for me, and that's why we chose Roosevelt. And of course, the Wilson is Bill Wilson's, from AA.
And just from Castaway.
The volleyball. But yeah, anyways, so we have done this once before, and I don't even know how we're gonna end up.
Some shitty fucking producer didn't know what he was doing.
I mean, I don't even remember the conversation. I was thinking about that on the way over here. I was like, almost like trying to remember what we talked about and how we can recreate it, and I don't even want to do that. And I'm glad that I've totally forgotten everything essentially that we talked about. So I do want to, I guess, just let you guys talk about how y'all got to where you are today, with your own recovery, with the Cove, whatever it is, so we can kind of get to know a little bit about the 2 of you guys.
How long do you want this to be?
However long you
Just go, man. Yeah,
there's
we're
no
just let
time
it flow.
limit.
Yeah, there's no time limit.
So,
Just keep that mic a
yeah.
little bit closer, both of you two.
I went, so I came to the ranch for my second time in 2019. Got there in July. Was kind of like, I decided I wanted to go back, and it was like a personal decision for me, and I think that was big. But once I got there, I was like, I don't need this place. I'm leaving. I ended up staying, having like a true step one moment, because I don't think I really had that in the past. And it was like, like every decision I've ever made has been pretty shitty. It's ended me up in shitty places. So maybe for once I'll take some advice from some other people and see if it works out. So I did. I ended up sticking around. Convinced me like a day before my discharge. I committed to 30 days with my counselor. When I signed on, I guess I signed for 90 days. So they played me. And but I wasn't mad. Like when I saw that, like I kind of expected myself to get like mad and upset that I was going to be there for triple the amount of time. But I was just like, whatever. It's not the end of the world. That actually ended up extending for a month. Discharged in December, and that's when I came to the Cove. Talked to Marcus because he was working over there, and it was just the decision that God presented to me. The other decision was going and moving with other guys, which would have been a horrible idea. But Marcus convinced me that that was the right thing for me to do, and God was just like open the door, and like it was just the decision. So I moved in. I went home for Christmas and New Year's. I came back. I remember Marcus called me. He's like, "Are you still sober, bro?" I was like, "Yes." So then I moved into the Cove at our previous residence where the Roosevelt used to be, and just continued doing what I was supposed to do, going to meetings like pretty much every night. Got a service position at CA. It was my home group, and just was sponsoring a lot. It was pretty much. My life was spent going back and forth from the ranch and treehouse and the Cove, and like that was my spots. I was out there all the time doing something with somebody. Just kept doing what I was supposed to do, and then one day Marcus asked me if I'd be interested in the house manager position, and I was like, yeah, of course. Like I'd kind of decided that's where I kind of wanted to go, that direction. And I was thinking he was like, oh, maybe a couple of years from now, maybe a year or so, maybe months. He called me 3 days later and was like, "Hey, I'm moving out this week. Like, you got like you're moving in." I was like, "What the fuck?" And I guess it was good because it didn't really give me any time to think about it. It was just like, okay, that's the decision. It's been made. We're rolling with it. and man, it's been a blessing to work with these guys, to learn from them, and to grow into my own and help the guys on a daily basis. Where I can just kind of be there, be consistent in those guys' lives. Yeah, keep them accountable, but also be there, be an ear to talk to, give them any wisdom I can. And I think it's truly been a blessing to me. It's kind of really just solidified like where I want to go school wise. You know, I'm going back to school through the center at Tech. So yeah, it's just a lot of interesting stuff going on, and just like really looking forward to continuing to grow the company, growing my own personal life, and continue working with these assholes.
Hell yeah.
Did you ever expect this whenever you went to the ranch either times? Something even along these lines?
No. No, not at all. At first I thought I was going to like work in like biology with animals, because I always loved animals. But both times going to the ranch, I was like, I'm doing my 30 days and I'm out. Because when I flew into Lubbock the first time, I was like, I fucked up this place. What in the hell? And now it's like now it's home for me. Like I call Lubbock home. So it's definitely not what I expected, but you know, the best picture I painted for myself couldn't match up to what God's given me so far.
Yeah, that's funny you brought up that part of, you know, flying into Lubbock and now it's your home. I'm doing a research. I have to do a research project for one of my classes, and it's about that. Like, what is different about Lubbock compared to other cities? And I've never lived anywhere but West Texas, so I don't know. But I'm curious to know, like, what is Lubbock? I guess. Let me ask you this: if you weren't in recovery, would you still want to be here? Like, if you had never experienced the Lubbock recovery community yourself as an addict in recovery or anything like that, would you still want to be here?
Probably not.
Yeah.
I'd always heard like from the RAs and everyone was like, oh, Lubbock's just got something about it. The center and yada yada stuff. And I was like, oh, that's all bullshit. But then when I actually got connected, I was like, there is something different about it. Like the other places that I've been to Kentucky and their recovery community in Lexington, and I've been home in Indianapolis. And there's just nothing. I don't know how to like put it into words. Mm-hmm. But there's just this close net community where it's like you get in, you get to know a bunch of people that genuinely care about you, and you just communicate with them. You know what's going on with other people because they tell you, and it's just like everyone's just kind of connected in a certain way that I haven't experienced anywhere else.
Cool. What do you think, Phoenix? But that same question, but then also tell us about yourself.
What was the question again?
Well, like,
No,
he's only tuning in for his part.
No, I heard what he said. No, I heard what the question was. I didn't think about it. No, I would never want to be here. I would never think. No, ever. I grew up in Dumas, and I moved to Amarillo when I was 14 or something like that. So I've always been in that little area. Mm-hmm. And my thing was that I wanted to go somewhere more diverse. You know what I mean? And it definitely was in Texas. So my thought was like I needed to get out of Texas altogether. So yeah, Lubbock was never some place that I thought I would end up ever. But I'm glad that I did, because I came to Lubbock again. I went to treatment once in 2016. I came back December 4th of last year. And the only reason I came back was because fear initially brought me back to Lubbock because I had gotten arrested again for my third or fourth DUI, and so it was like more real this time, and it was I was looking at prison time instead of just like jail time and probation and stuff like that, and so I wanted to make myself look better, so I came to treatment. And that's the truth. Like I knew that I needed to be sober. But I came because I was afraid. And I thought treatment would make me look better. It did the first time. So, anyways, I had only been there for maybe 3 or 4 days before, I made the decision that fear brought me into treatment this time, but I genuinely wanted to be sober this time because I knew that I didn't have very much time left out there had I continued what I was doing the way I was doing it. You know, anyways, so I'm really glad that I actually I made the decision, regardless of what the reasons were. I made the decision to come back this time. You know, I wasn't forced by my family or anything, and I think that there was a huge difference from the first time. And I got a sponsor right away, and I worked the 12 steps in treatment before I got out. You know, once I got out, I went to a sober living and started making my amends, and I got like 2 amends out of the way, I think, and then I started sponsoring guys. And that was a huge difference from before, too, because before I didn't sponsor. I didn't want to sponsor anybody. I didn't think I was capable of it, and I honestly didn't want to help anybody. But, like, I had that drive to help other alcoholics and addicts. And I was at that sober living. I don't know. We talked about this. I don't remember. I was only there for, like, maybe two months or something, like 2.5 months. And then my time there was, like, running out, and I didn't actually know that I was coming for sure to the Cove until like 2 days before like my date was up. And so I was like really scared because I knew that I didn't want to go back to Amarillo because it's not a good place for me. Yeah, I was genuinely scared because I didn't want to go to an Oxford House. I knew that that wasn't the place for me at all. And so, you know, I was, there's a lot of communication between you and me before I left that first sober living, and I was really grateful to get in at the Wilson House. There was already a guy there that I was in treatment with, and so I felt comfortable, you know, automatically, because I got to, you know, be around him and stuff, and, you know, I was a little, I wasn't really sure about Parker, to be honest with you.
Looks like an asshole.
Yeah, he just gave me like a weird vibe because I didn't know anything about him. I'd never met him before, but like I had met I had met Marcus before, like when I was at the door back in 2017. And like we're from the same place, and so I knew about him, and so I felt a little more relaxed. But when I came to the Wilson House, you know, I was kind of like timid around Parker for a little bit before, like he would like come into my room, and like me and my roommate would be in there, and he would just like talk to us, and then he'd be like, all right, like I love you guys, and I'm just like, it's fucking weird. He's like, say it again, like I love you, and I'm like, good night, buddy, like
get the fuck out of my room.
Say it back, damn it.
say it back. Yeah. I mean, eventually I started like telling him that I loved him because like I got really close to him, and I noticed that like God put these men in recovery in my life that I can look up to, because before I feel like I didn't really have I didn't really notice anybody around me in recovery that I could look up to and be like, yeah, that like I want what he has. But I definitely I was given that this time, and so like Parker, like I respect his recovery, and Pat and Marcus and stuff, and you know, the people that got me into treatment and my sponsor, and you know, when Parker first started talking about like being a part of the Cove and like being a part of the company and stuff, and I was like, yeah, that sounds great, like that's really exciting. I don't know if I'm necessarily cut out for that. Like I tend to doubt myself a lot, and so I was real worried, but you know, I prayed about it a lot, and I meditated on it, and I thought that like if they think that I have the potential to be a good house manager, then like who am I to say that they're wrong? And so like with that, like I just kind of let go of all that worry about like, oh, I'm not good enough, this and that. And like while all this is happening, like I'm putting my application into the center and wanting to like go back to school. Like I have that drive to further my education and help other people that are just like me, and all of that is so much different from the person that I used to be, because I I lived my life very, I got me, like, fuck everybody else kind of thing, you know what I mean? But, like, I know that I can't be in recovery and have that sort of mindset. Like, I have to have that drive to help others. Like, I know that today that's the only way that I can succeed. And honestly, I'm really grateful for all the people that I had around me to, like, teach me, give me suggestions, and tell me what to do. And that I had, like, the willingness to actually listen and, like, put those things into action and, like, actually do those things. Like, and I'm about to come up on my year. And, like, that right there is crazy. 'Cause
What's the date?
it's the 5th of December.
Yeah.
So it's, like, getting real close, and, like, it just blows my mind. I couldn't get freaking 3 days sober before, you know what I mean? And the last time I tried, like, I got 3 months relapse, got 3 months, and went back out for 2.5 years. And, I was really scared. But I knew that it would be different because I was doing things different this time. Mm-hmm. Like, I had that willingness and that drive to put in the work. And, like, that faith in my higher power was, like, what really got me this far. And, the people that my Creator put in my life this time, like, it's honestly a blessing. And the fact that I'm, like, about to have a year sober just blows my mind, and it's funny because, like, in my addiction, I didn't really pay attention to anybody or anything. And so, like, my parents' anniversary is on the 5th of December. Mm-hmm. And my mom asked me what my clean date was, and I told her, and she was like, "Oh, that's funny." And I was like, "Why is that funny?" Like, not a clue. She was like, "Oh, that's me and your dad's anniversary." And I was like, "Wow, what a shithole I am." Like, I didn't even know. She was like, "Honestly, that's the best gift that you could ever give us." Yeah. Because, like, I don't worry about you in that sense of, like, mm-hmm. I don't know where you're at or what you're doing or this or that. Like,
your mom actually gets sleep now.
Yeah.
She probably hasn't had this much sleep in the 20 whatever years you've been alive.
Yeah. And I talk to her about that every time. Like, aren't you glad that you don't have to worry about me anymore? And she's like, well, I still worry about you, but, like, I don't worry that, like, you're going to kill yourself or you're going to hurt somebody, you know what I mean? Stuff like that. Like, it's more of, like,
normal worries
now.
Worries,
like, not like my kid's a fucking alcoholic and a drug addict. Kind of stuff. Like, it's just a blessing. Like, it's done a lot for recovery. Has done so much for me, but I feel like it's done more for my family. Been able to mend the relationship with my siblings and my parents and stuff, and it's honestly super cool to see it work in my family too. Like, they still have their problems. They're crazy. They're really crazy, but like, everything is just better now that I'm sober.
Yeah. So both you guys kind of talked about it being better than the last time, obviously. Better results so far. What is different about this go around, aside from just, like, the willingness to really try something different and take it direction? Because it sounds like that's like a normal trend for most people when they go around a couple times, that real willingness, that real step one experience, like you mentioned. Is there anything that you could put your finger on that you can say was definitely different that you feel like attributed to your success, both of you guys at a year or coming up on a year?
Well, for me, like, my first go around in February of 19, like, my family, like, pushed me to it. Mm-hmm. I was not having it. And even the whole time I was there, it wasn't until probably, like, my last week there that I was like, this is actually kind of cool. But I still was like, I'll get a little bit clean, and then I'll, smoke pot and drink for the rest of my life. But, I had that step one experience where I was like, dude, if I keep doing, like, I've showed over and over again that that's what I go to first. And then a week later, it's over. Mm-hmm. And I was like, if I keep doing that, I'll just repeat the cycle over and over and over. And every couple months, I'll be back in treatment, feeling like this, feeling like shit, hating myself. And then I was just like, dude, I have to give it 100%. Like, I told myself I have to chase it more than my next breath, because, that's not guaranteed in life anyways. But I go back out, and those chances are exponentially increased. So it was more important to me than anything else. It was number one priority from the time I woke up to the time I went to bed. And just staying in tune with everyone, just sponsoring, and because like I didn't really care about helping other people, like Phoenix said. Like, I just wanted it for me. I just wanted to be like, I don't want to crave using drugs anymore. But then I had that feeling of like actually helping someone else, and I was like, that's what I want to do. This is what I want to do for the rest of my life. And honestly, I don't really like ever think about doing it for the rest of my life anymore. It's just kind of what I do. I wake up and I just do it. It's second nature now, and just having that willingness to listen to other people and not think I'm the smartest guy in the room. I mean, I usually am, but like not always.
I almost didn't catch that.
But just not being an asshole, and just actually genuinely worrying about other people and helping other people, and not being me, being the opposite of me. That's worked so far.
Do you think when you're talking about that, I was thinking of something. Do you think? Okay, because I'm sure. I'm assuming, and correct me if I'm wrong, but you buy into the disease model of addiction.
Yes.
Do you think maybe you were completely against that at first, or how did you feel? Had you even known about that the first time?
Yeah, I'd known, and then like Family Week, I got like a real understanding of it. My first go around, and I mean, I bought it. I did. But I just didn't really care. Like, I just kind of submitted to the fact that I was just going to live in a 1-bedroom shack and just do drugs until I keeled over. And I was cool with that.
So at that point, the disease was still very rampant within you.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Enough to avoid or ignore the facts that were laid out in front of you that you understood. Okay.
Yeah, and I think another big thing for me was my connection with my higher power, because I grew up religious, and I just kind of like adopted this like, I'll just believe what I've been taught and kind of like go from there. But my second time I really had to like step back and be like, okay, I need to evaluate this. Believing is one thing, but having a relationship is a totally different thing. So I took a step back and I was like, what do I want my God to look like? And I kind of formulated it from there, and like actually started to have a relationship, because I believe God does want us to have a relationship with him. He wants what's good for us, but if we're going to be assholes, like, why is he going to do good things for us if we're not going to, give it back and have that relationship with him? So it was really just like evaluating like what I want my higher power to be. And honestly, it started off with, I want it to be the opposite of me. Unselfish, loving, all-powerful, all-knowing, all these different things. So it was like the opposite of the asshole, selfish, self-seeking.
Ignorant.
Not that. No, not that. And then, so it was just like, it was like that. And I've kind of still, I still am religious. It's just I look at it a different way. I have a relationship.
The giant gold cross on your neck says that.
I don't know what you're talking about.
I was going to chime in a while ago when you said just smoking and drinking. And there's one phrase that I have heard so many fucking people fall victim to. It is, well, my problem was never drinking. It was drugs. And I've seen so many people go out thinking that, telling themselves that. And then they, sometimes they end back up in treatment. Sometimes they end back up in this community. But, I mean, that trips a lot of people up.
Yeah, that was mine too. When I was my first run of treatment, I remember running to the gas station for like everyone would throw in their money and whatever and do all that stupid shit.
Store run.
Yeah, and I just I was like, I can have my occasional beer and wine. Like, that was never my problem. But like, I can make anything my problem. The problem is me. It has nothing to do with all the external stuff. The problem is me, and just me.
Does everybody else hear that? Sorry.
Yeah, it's
I do.
I thought I was just making sure that wasn't just me. What about you, Phoenix? What do you think? I guess, can you pinpoint anything that's different? Between 1 and 2, 2017 and 2019, Phoenix.
Pretty much the same.
No. I lost a lot personally, like, not material things. It was more of like I was completely like empty inside by the time I made it back the second time. And so like the first time, like I was 22 or something like that, I think, and I still thought that I could like control it. I was willing to admit that I was an alcoholic. There was almost like a sense of pride in that, like, yeah, I'm an alcoholic, fuck it, like, who cares, you know what I mean? Like, woe is me, like, I'm just gonna, you know, find a fucking shack and just drink to myself to death, kind of thing. And this time when I came in, you know, the weeks leading up to this time, I had never been in such a bad state of mind in my entire life. Like every thought, you know, I just wanted to die. And I honestly don't even know how I made it into treatment. Because I was nothing, you know, I was just a shell of a person. But like making it back to treatment, and like knowing that my first problem was like I needed to find a higher power. Because I didn't do that the first time. Like I pretty much just like faked my way through that part of it, because I still blamed God for everything, and like I knew that like that was childish, and so coming in this time, I was like, this is something that like I need to work on, because I can't stay sober without a higher power. Like I know that for a fact now. And like seeing all the people who I went to treatment with the first time, and I came back and they're all still here and they're all still sober, I was like, fuck, dude, that is shitty. Like, God, that sucks. And it was, I don't know, I'm not sure what page it says this on, but, you know, it says acceptance was the answer to it was like the key to my relationship with God. And like, so I had to grow up, I had to accept the fact that like, those things that happened to me, like who I am is not God's fault. Like instead of seeing like all that stuff and like who I am as something bad, like, you know, I had my first spiritual experience December 16th in a process group at treatment, and like it just like clicked, and I was like, who I am is not supposed to be something that's like used to like weigh me down. Instead, like I can use it to help others, and it like clicked immediately, and I was like, I had like a breakdown, and I was like crying and shaking and like sweating, and I was like, what is like what's going on? And everybody else in the room like didn't even notice, but like I'm freaking out. And like it was in that moment that I realized like I was put here for a specific reason, you know, to help people who are like me. And I genuinely feel like this can keep me sober for the rest of my life, as long as I like use this purpose that I was given to help others. Like when I talk about it, it sounds unreal, and even in the moment it felt really like it just didn't feel real. Like it was crazy, like I was watching myself experience this like from outside of my body. But like that changed everything. Like I hadn't been in treatment for very long when I had that experience. And so it was like from that moment that like my entire views on God and like recovery and the fellowship and everything like completely changed. You know, it says that it talks about having that like the driving forces that once were like ruled your life, like all those things that you thought completely like turned around, and like you have a new set of like views on the world and people and like all that stuff. And like that was the experience for me, and I honestly feel like if I hadn't had that experience, that I probably would have struggled a lot more than I did, because like that made it simple for me. When I realized that like I had a purpose in life, it made everything like super simple.
It sounds like, and it was very similar for myself, but it sounds like based on what you two guys are saying, like the step one experience maybe wasn't experienced all the way through the first time. Like you both conceded to the fact that you were alcoholics or drug addicts, right? But that's like the first part of the step. It was the second part of the first step that maybe was not.
Yeah.
Would you say that?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, because that's what I thought step one. Like it was just like I admitted, and I was like, I can't. I mean, I just love getting high. I was like, okay, cool, yeah. I mean, it's pretty obvious that I'm an addict, but my life, in my eyes, through kind of this fucked up, like, I don't know, window pane I was looking through, And it was like, I think, I'm not going to blame it on them, but like my family was like a big part of that. Because they didn't know what to do, so I can't blame them for it. And I was the one doing all the shit. But that enabling that they were unaware of until the second time when they learned those boundaries from Family Week, which let me like go way out there. And then I realized, I was like, oh shit, my life's pretty unmanageable. But it was kind of like this, I always had this feeling, and I kind of talked about it in my story when I did it in the house, is I had this feeling of like being bulletproof. And no matter what happened, I had that safety net.
The safety net with your family.
Yeah, it would always bounce me back up. And then when they were just like, you can go fuck yourself, I was like, I found myself like, what? Like within like no time. No, like in between treatment runs, I got out March 6th and I was back in July 21st. And so it was like, it did not take long at all. And I was kind of reminiscing about some of the stuff I'd kind of forgotten with one of the guys. And I was like, holy shit. Like when they let me go out there, I mean, they were like, they probably didn't want me to die, but like they were like kind of like, he might. And my parents kind of said the same thing that Phoenix's did. Like, we've never slept so well. Like when I was in treatment, they're like, we've never gotten better night's sleep.
What brought your family to that decision of letting you go between those days?
I think it was just kind of the counselors just being like, teaching them those boundaries and teaching them that as long as they continue doing what they were doing, which some of it was like trying to keep me from doing the bad shit, and some of it was like catching me when something would happen with me, and just being like, because that's what I needed. I needed to go that far, and I needed to feel that pain of being alone and nowhere to go, living, with basically nothing. I was living out of my car basically, in friends' garages and stuff like that. That's what I needed to be like, okay, I need to do something. Because before then, it was just, I just end up back in my room or wherever, and it was just, things would go back to normal for a couple days, and then I just do it all over again. And it was when they finally were just like, you're not staying here, you cut you off completely, and then I figured out that, actually I probably need to do something about this.
I think that's cool to hear, because a lot of the times families won't make those boundaries. Families will continue to enable and just continue to enable. And sometimes as addicts, that's like the last straw we need, is our family to say, fuck it, you're on your own. And shortly after, we end up hitting our rock bottom, coming to that realization, that clarity, that moment of clarity, like, fuck. Like, I no longer have help. I'm on my own, and I can't make it on my own. So it's cool to hear that, because a lot of times you don't see that.
Yeah.
And
that's what I was going to, and I'm glad you brought that up, because it's a good thing. Okay, for you going into a profession, I think it's important to note that all of us are in the CFAS department at Texas Tech. Phoenix will be starting in January. You're doing CFAS, right? Yeah. So we're all working on our undergrad to be some sort of counselor focus in addiction, right? With you going into that field, I think it's important for you to always remember that knowledge, because right now I'm going to ask you what you would, in the situation, as I've been put in the situation a couple times, on what do we do? That's the question most every mom or dad wants to know, is what do we do now? And so, since, my parents kind of, not by choice, but just basically by my decisions, they set me free about 22. And then I had another 2 years to wreck my life before, I went to treatment for the first time. So I think I got lucky in that way. But somebody in your situation, which is a lot of other guys are in a very similar situation where mom and dad are still trying to help. Say you're asked by a mother or father, what do we do now?
It would just depend on the situation. Like for me, whatever they were going to give me, I was going to take.
Okay, what would you tell your mom? Had you been your counselor?
I would just say, basically, honestly, do what they did. Once I crossed a certain boundary, it was you're on your own. You're gonna be paying your own. You're gonna get your own fucking food. You're gonna get your own gas. You're gonna find out a way to live because you're not doing it anymore. Like every little way that I would try to manipulate, taking money, writing bad checks, all this different. So they started hiding everything, and then eventually they just. Once I kind of was out there enough, they were just like, you go out, and then like once I left the house, there was no line of communication. Mm-hmm. There was no, hey, how are you doing? Do you want to come home? I was gone for Father's Day. I didn't give a fuck. They probably cared, but like they weren't going to be like, hey, come back. And I think that was important. That when I realized that I was alone, I was alone. And they were not going to accept anything except for I'm going back to treatment. And I think that's important, is just you have to be at that place where you have to live with the kind of, it's hard, it's a tough place to be in because you don't know what's going to happen. It's out of your control, but you need them to go out there and really experience that. And we've been in situations where we've had to tell clients this, that you need to reach that bottom. And no matter how much it pains them to not know where I'm at or their children, where they're at, what they're doing, you have to only accept, I want help. But until that happens, it's not going to be good in either way, because they'll just take whatever you give them and then just slap you right back in the face because they don't care.
It does seem to me there's a trend that I've noticed since I've been in recovery that, I don't know your family or your situation, but the more affluent families have trouble with doing that. I don't know if it's like the image, if they want their kid to like look a certain way or their family to look a certain way, but it seems like the more affluent families just constantly are paying and keeping this person in treatment and high-end treatment. It's like, I remember I was in treatment with a guy, his dad was the CEO of, I think, Krispy Kreme. And this dude had been to like 17 treatments in like 10 years, and he was like 30 something, and they were still, this had been a thing just constantly. He was a good dude. I think he got it a lot the time we were there, maybe, I don't know. But it just seems like that's a trend, is that like the more affluent families can afford to keep paying for it, and it's like the worst thing you could be doing almost, you know what I mean? And it's not really anybody's fault because they want to help and they're trying everything they can. But it's just like they have that safety net where they just constantly are taking. It's a resource to exploit,
Yeah, I think, maybe you should say something more of this. But the one thought I wanted to get off first was when you were talking about that, all I could think about was, and I don't have that much experience with it because I didn't grow up, affluent. I wasn't very. We were lower middle class, right? But when I think about that concept, it's like, well, it's when you think about, any other issue that maybe you're faced in a day-to-day life, whether your air conditioner breaks or your hot water heater quits working or the tile that was laid in your floor starts cracking, you just start throwing money at it to get it fixed, right? Mm-hmm. So you call somebody to come fix it, and they come fix it. And if it still's not fixed, then you call somebody else, and then they come and maybe fix the work from the previous person. And that's whenever I think about this situation, because I've had that thought before, is like, why is it such a reoccurring theme with families that have money, right? And it's just, at least in my mind, it's like, well, maybe they're just trying to, that's the only way they've ever known how to handle anything. So they're just doing everything they can to offer the resources and the money so that maybe the next one will just fix it. You know what I mean? And maybe you can speak more to that. I don't know.
So, yeah, my family is more affluent. I don't know too much about Parker, but I know it's definitely a lot different than you guys. Because I remember my dad looking at me one time and being like, I don't care how much it costs, I'll pay whatever. And I don't know if it would, that's how desperate they were. Mm-hmm. Because they were desperate long before I was. But it was just, I think once, after the first go round, and they had that family week, and I think it was so important that they realized that it didn't matter how much money they spent. It didn't matter, really anything else. What really mattered was me, and if I really wanted it or not. Because you can send me to treatment 400 times, but as long as I don't want it, I'm not going to get it. Mm-hmm. But it was that was something that they were willing to do. They were just willing to, and I think that was important when I came to my mom and I said, I need to go back. She wasn't going to tell me that she'd already been in contact with them. She wasn't going to tell me that she wanted me to go, or she thought I needed to go. What it was is I thought I needed to go. And that was all that mattered. Because I don't know if they would have kept forcing me back once they were taught those boundaries. And I think that was super important. Because then it was like, okay, now it's my decision. Now I'll do I will contribute. But yeah, I know they were just so desperate that it was like they didn't know what to do. So it was just like whatever it takes, we'll do it. And it took me, and that was literally it. It was just me being like willing to accept the help and willing to admit that I truly needed the help. It wasn't just like, yeah, I'm going to do my 30 days and I'll be cured. It's like, I need to do this forever.
I mean, I don't know. I'm trying to think of maybe why that seems like that's such a trend, at least and maybe it's like this everywhere, in every treatment center in every other city. But when I think about the original topic of this conversation was like what makes Lubbock different, it just seems like there's a lot of consistency across the community of setting those boundaries. And I don't know if that comes from the treatment centers or if that comes from the community, which then puts the people that are usually most of the people that work in the treatment centers in there, where it comes from. But that idea is developed pretty rapidly here, and it's pretty widespread across the city. Is like if you can't take care of your own shit, then we're not going to help you, kind of thing. And it's kind of like there's a forced independence here, and I'm kind of wondering if that's just another one of the reasons that it makes it such. It's kind of like, I guess, probably a little bit of a volatile, like with turnover. You got people coming in and out, but it's also going to put the pressure on people enough for them to actually succeed. Because I think that would be part of it. Is like, you know, a lot of the people that I've run into in my experience the last 3.5 years here are, if you don't want to be clean, then go on and do something else. Like go find your bottom. You know what I mean? There's not much like babying going on here within the meetings, within the treatment centers, within the sober livings. I mean, it's even with us, like we try to, you know, if somebody really doesn't want to be here and be clean, then go ahead and go find what's going to keep you clean. You know what I mean? Go get more if it's what it takes. But I'm starting to wonder if like that and between that and then for those that actually say, you know what, I do want this, there's so many different things for them to go do. So many different pathways for people to find here. And with the kind of the way that we run our place and the way that it worked for me, I think the way that it worked for you two guys was having some sort of next step. You know, having a week goal, having a month goal, having a 3-year goal, whatever it may be. At least for me personally, I knew that once I got done with my first, I signed on for 3 months of sober living, ended up staying a lot longer than that. But I knew that when I got done with those first few months, that I was going to end up going to school, and having the center for that support was huge in me actually dedicating myself to those first like 6 months of sobriety, because I knew that at least in 6 months something else is going to be different in my life. Something's going to change a little bit. I'm going to get a new experience, and I wanted that more than anything. So it gave me the incentive to buckle down in those first 6 months and actually do something for myself to try and better myself and prepare myself for a life in higher education, right? And I think we need to talk a little bit about what we're talking about when we're talking about the center, because a lot of people, of course, here in Lubbock do, but you'd be surprised how many people, even like either at the treatment center or in groups that aren't directly associated with the university, even here in Lubbock, are like, what are you talking about whenever we bring up the center?
A lot of people in Lubbock don't know about it at all.
I know, it's crazy. It's incredible that Texas Tech has this resource, and that A, there's people right here living in the city that don't know about it, and B, that it's not just completely known about across every platform in recovery. So do y'all want me to talk about it, or somebody?
Go ahead, take the charge.
Because like you were talking about goals right there, and I think that's why I love kind of what we do. And I kind of had this to begin with, and this will kind of lead back to the center, is I always had something that I was chasing. I wanted to get here. And then once that was accomplished, it was here. In the back of my mind, there were still things that are way down the road, like that. Before I left treatment, I was like, I want to go to the center. So that was down the road. And you've talked about this, and that's why I love like kind of like this is like the system we have set up, because there's a certain point when you stop running away from the shit and you have to start running towards something. And I think that was important for me, and I think that's the center contributes to that, because you have a bunch of like-minded people in there that are now, they've gotten to the place where they are no longer running away, they're running towards something. You have all these people in there, and it doesn't matter what it is they're running towards, but they're going towards something, and it's through the higher education. And I'd never even heard of anything like the center. Like, they really want me in school because I've done so stellar in the past.
And I think I was going to kind of add what you were talking about, Pat, is, you know, the goals and then finding winners around you, people that want to do good. That's why I always suggest what I did is I found people who had more time than me, whether it's 6 months, whether it's a year or 3 months. I found people that had more time than me that were doing everything that they were supposed to do, and setting goals, and then having those winners around you will hold you to those goals. I remember I was trying to go to South Plains, and Marcus was just on my ass, like, no, you're going to apply to the center. This is how you do it. I'll help you, this and that. And, you know, I'm so grateful I didn't go to South Plains for a year and then transfer to Tech. And like you said, once you get into the center, then you're around all those other people that want to do good, those other people that are going to help you and that are going to push you.
And there's so many resources.
Yeah. Right.
Like all the people that have been working up there, you know, name them. They're going to get you in the right direction.
Yeah, somebody's got some sort of direction for you, whether it be, you know, if they don't know it, they're going to get you somebody that does know it. And I think what you're talking about. So one of our really close friends picked up 5 years the other day, and she said something in celebration that I'm sure I've heard it before. I know I've heard it before, but for whatever reason, when she said it, talking about her life and her experience, it really stuck out to me. And I don't know if it was the fact that she came, like she said, she's like, I'm a doctoral candidate, and she was speaking about, and she's like, but I used to be a fucking drunk, and it blew me. Like for some reason it set in with me when she said that. She goes, but back then, if somebody had a day more clean than I did, and they told me to step off the edge of the building, I would have done it. And having that willingness to just listen to the people that came in front of her and that had done more than she had done, even if it was 24 hours, she was willing to listen to that person and to what they were doing, because that was just how desperate she was to run towards her recovery. Right? That's what I heard whenever she said that. But the center is the center for collegiate recovery communities. They changed it recently, so I always mess it up. But CCRC, Texas Tech CCRC, Texas Tech University Collegiate Recovery Community. I'm gonna fuck up everything.
Center for Collegiate
There's way too many words.
Too many C's, bro.
Bro, yeah, it used to be Seesaw or something like that, but now it's just a bunch of C's. And what's incredible about this program is I feel that same way, because I used to be kind of like, when I graduated high school, I had my daughter early. So college was never an option for me. It was never going to be on my radar ever. At 19 years old, I was like thinking about going to be a diesel mechanic, and then was told, nope, you're going to be a dad. And so I just went straight to work and dove deeper into my addiction, right? So not until I was, in 2017, I was 24 years old, was I ever even considering higher education of any kind. So up until this point, I had forgotten how to write with a pen. I had forgotten how to sign a piece of paper. Like I didn't have checks or anything like that, so I didn't never use my signature. I was horrible at typing. I couldn't remember the last time I used math other than my phone calculator. There were so many different things that had set me back over those years that I had never considered, you know, any type of education, any type of anything other than what I was doing with my life at that point in time. I had a career that I thought was okay. I kept destroying job after job. Anyways, getting into Lubbock, getting into treatment and being like almost forced into seeking higher education gave me the opportunity to run towards something, like Patrick said. And the center was that for me. I think it's like, I want to speak for everybody in here, but I would have to say it's a big component for everybody in here. But it's an opportunity for those of us in recovery who identify as people in recovery from substance abuse, eating disorders, sex addictions, gambling addictions, any kind of addictive disorder, right? It's an opportunity for us to go and get higher education with a support system around us. You come in essentially as a collegiate athlete on scholarship. So you get the in-state tuition, you get a small scholarship, you get admissions overridden. So like me, never going to school before, I went to one of those like alternative, not an alternative high school, but like a alternative program where I didn't go to school all day. I was only there for like 2 hours. And so I got my diploma says something funny on it. I don't know what it says, but it says something not, enough essentially. And so I had no credits into at all with college, never been to college at all, and I had a criminal record. So the university, I applied to the university because you have to do both, right? I applied to the university and got a rejection letter in the mail, one single sheet of paper. It said, sorry to inform you, blah, 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 blah. And that broke my heart. So I was thinking, man, I'm never going to go to school. Well, I didn't realize how the process worked. And then the center emails me and says, we're pleased to announce your, acceptance to the center. And so I went to West Hall at Texas Tech and I showed them the email and they said, oh yeah, we're so sorry that you got this letter. We didn't realize that you were a C-STAR student. Immediately right then and there gave me didn't give me anything, but told me that I had been accepted. And then a couple weeks later, I got the big packet from Texas Tech. And in January of 2018, I started as a student at the center. And I've gotten a little bit of money to go towards my schooling. I've gotten an opportunity to be a part of a community, but more than anything, I've gotten those resources like he's talked about. They gave me an opportunity to be a part of ASAS, which is Association of Students About Service. It's a service organization within the center that every student is a part of, and we get to just go and be of service to people in Lubbock. And that's been one of the major components of my recovery, is doing something for somebody else. And just like Patrick said, like that was very, very, very important for me, because it took me outside of myself. It gave me a purpose. Both these guys, the trend was having a purpose other than ourselves. And for me, that's what, I had some of that before, but it was just like going to H&I's a whole bunch, and I got burnt out eventually, and sponsoring a bunch of dudes at once. And you eventually kind of get burnt out. And so you have to lessen those numbers, but feel the same satisfaction from somewhere else, get that fulfillment from somewhere else. And the center and ASAS was that for me. Sometimes I overload myself with the things that I'm doing, but it's because I have a hard time saying no to these people. It's because I have a hard time saying no to anything that I'm asked to do anymore, because I really am extremely grateful for what Texas Tech has done for me, what the center has done for me, what the organization has done for me, and all of these different things that are in this one place. It's incredible to like, it really does blow my mind. There's like 150 of us that used to shoot dope, get really drunk every night, do horrible things to ourselves and others, and we're all sitting there studying together. We're all like, it's like, and there's so many doctoral candidates. That blows my mind.
Our GPA is higher than Texas Tech's average too.
Yeah. Our overall GPA within the center is, I think, 3.2 or something like that, 3.4, where the university average is like 2.8, right? And that's because they require a 3.0 GPA to remain in good standing. They send me an email every year telling me that I'm not in good standing.
I was about to say, he better bring this.
This year's the year. I've been begging every one of my professors to give me a break, help me out, tell me what I need to do to get my grade back up. It's been a stressful year. But that's the other thing. Even this year with COVID, like, the center has done everything they can within the confines of Texas Tech, because Texas Tech has strict regulations and rules on how everything goes. But Laura and Vince and Tom have done so much and Ann and everybody else that works there have done so much to at least try to reach out to the students. There's a Zoom lobby that's open from 8 to 5 every single day. There's meetings throughout the day. There's like 13 meetings or something like that throughout the week that are all on Zoom. They're trying everything they can. Thursday celebrations are going on every week, and I think there's a way to apply to kind of maybe come in person if you're picking up a chip. There's all kinds of different things that this place has done for me, and then it just blows my mind when I talk to somebody that has never even heard of it. You talked to somebody the other day that's coming to Lubbock, and had no idea about the center, right? And
Right.
it's surreal to know that this thing exists and it's not just like being blasted from the mountaintops.
And the crazy thing is they're coming here for school.
Yeah.
They weren't just coming here
To come get clean.
to come get clean or just move. No, they're coming here for school. And I brought it up, and they're like, we don't know about that. I was like, okay, well, let me tell you.
Yeah.
Let me tell you.
Yeah,
There's
man.
quite a bit of students in recovery that don't even know about the center, or they don't apply, or they didn't know it was a thing. They, you know what I mean? So it's weird.
Yeah, well, don't get me wrong. It's not for everybody, right?
Yeah.
But it's, at least in my mind, it's because what it does for me is, like I said, it gives me an opportunity to be of service. It gives me an opportunity to be a part of the group when for so long, that's what caused me to drink, was that I was apart from the group and I had been set aside and I had kind of been forgotten about, and I had then pushed myself out over and over again with my behavior. Now, I've been given the opportunity to be a part of a group. I've been given the opportunity to be a part of a community that's way bigger than I am and way more successful. To know, and I got to meet you met Dr. A the other day. I got to meet Dr. A a couple years ago, but then sitting there talking to him about the book that he's written, and I think the book will be out sometime this year, about how...
try to get him on here.
Oh, that would be incredible. I didn't even think about that. We definitely could ask him. Yeah, 100%. I want to be able to do that kind of stuff with these people because I really am grateful for it. I mean, that's the whole reason that I'm here today, because I was given, like I said, given that motivation to work harder in the first 6 months to get to that point. And I don't think I would have built that foundation had I not had that carrot hanging out there that you're going to go to school. You're going to be, and I just wanted to see what it was like. I was like, you know what? I'll at least do one semester because I want to see what it's like. And then if I fail out, whatever, you know what I mean? But then I got there and I just wanted more. And I wanted to keep coming back. But whenever he was talking about that book that he was writing or that he had written, he talked about like how this whole thing basically was just an idea that him and some other people had, but then he just implemented it. He went and talked to all the right people. He put in the footwork for it, and just this one man, with the support of all the other people that believed in what he was doing, created this thing. And I would love to know, and I'm sure there's a metric out there, love to know how many thousands of people have gone through this program and who are successful professionals today, successful parents, successful influencers, whatever they may be. How many people have gone through this and become something way more than they ever once were when they were in their addiction? Because I can tell you right now, just because it exists, I've become a better person. And I'm not even done with school yet. And I don't know what I'm going to do with my degree, but once I eventually get that degree, the more and more doors are open for me. And I think for every single one of us, the doors are like the impact that you four are going to have on this world is incredible to think about. It really is. It's something I think about pretty often, and it makes me very emotional sometimes thinking about some of the things that you guys are going to do. And I'm glad to be a part of it, and I'm glad that the center is going to be a part of it, and I'm glad that we're all going to be able to graduate with our red and black on and have the degrees that we're going to have.
Phoenix, you super excited to do school?
Oh,
We were talking about it on the way over here a little bit.
Yeah, I don't like to think about it.
Well, I brought up a few things that I'm gonna have to do tonight. He was like, God, it just gives me so much anxiety.
I just did the thought of school work. I'm like, fuck, dude, I suck at school. Like,
Dude, I chicken peg still.
but I know that it's different now. Like who I am personally, like it's different. I feel different about myself. I'm not like being sober is a big factor, obviously, but like.
You'd be surprised how much easier it is sober because
Oh.
I was a really good student as a kid, and in high school I was terrible because I was just getting high all the time. I was high in class all the time. When I came out here to college 8 years ago, I dropped out fucking 4 times, and I'm like a pretty good student. I had like a 3.9 my first semester at Tech. Like, and I don't understand how it was easy too. And I'm not trying to flex. I'm just saying you'll be surprised how easy it is when you're sober, clear-headed. You're not running around. You have way more time on your hands, and you have ability to focus. You know what I mean?
So you tell me I'm just dumb?
Yeah, what the?
Yeah.
No, and I think it'll be good because we've all done it. I'm kind of learning right now. But like with the position of the house manager, like I want to be around sober people, but it's good to just be like, hey guys, fuck off for a bit. I got to do something, and like have my own room where I can sit there and do my work.
Right.
Yeah. I think what I can get past the school part. You know, I think that once I kind of start going to class and whatnot, I think that part won't really bother me that much. It'll just be something that I do. But like, being around that many people, it's a real problem for me, dude. It gives me nightmares. You know what I mean?
I can relate to that. The first time I walked into like a large lecture hall where it was like 200 plus people, I was like, oh my fucking God. Like, and like, what's silly is like, I'll go to a concert with 1,000 people or something, or, you know what I mean? And it doesn't bother me, but like, that just gave me such anxiety. Like, I felt like everybody was looking at me like, who's this older, weird dude, fat dude, you know? But you get over it.
Yeah.
We'll get Phoenix into an officer position too.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And then Parker will be the only one without one.
Yeah,
He's
essentially.
It'll stay that way.
Well, and I had that same sort of anxiety, and sometimes I still do, and I'm sure it will after this semester, because this semester I've only been in one classroom, like once a week this entire semester. The rest of them all online, and
I fucking hate the online
I really
classes.
do too. And I think, I mean, you'll probably love it because you're just gonna be like, yeah, I'm in
You're like,
class,
yeah.
but I
Like-
can't see anybody else, and nobody else can see me.
I don't want to have that though. You know what I mean?
I
don't
hate
want to
it.
get comfortable with that.
Well, and that's what I was about to say, because whenever I stepped into that first lecture hall that I had to step into, I was like, man, everybody's gonna be worried. You know, everybody's the same thing. Everybody's gonna be thinking about this older guy. I already had this arm sleeved at the time, like all these different things that I was like, man, they're gonna be like, you know, who's this older guy with all these tattoos and, you know, this looks angry all the time or whatever, you know what I mean? And then I started to think about it, and I was like, I'm not that fucking important.
Right, yeah.
You know what I mean? Nobody gives two shits about who I am in that classroom. And so it took me a long time I knew that, but it took me a long time to get comfortable with that too. You know what I mean?
Because they're all thinking the same stuff.
Yeah.
It's just different.
Yeah.
It's not, oh, the old guy, you know. It's like, oh, am I wearing the right, you know, whatever.
Yeah,
whatever they think about.
Probably more so because they're younger and they're
Yeah.
more
Yeah.
cared about who's they're trying to fuck that weekend, you know?
Yeah, so that's, I mean, yeah, they're worried about that, and we're just like, we're trying not to worry about ourselves. We're just like,
what if they know about all the things I've done? You know what I mean?
What if they realize I'm fat?
What helps me is I sit at the front,
so they all look at the back of your head.
so I can't see them. It's like me and the 4 people next to me, and then the professor. And I'm
Yeah,
just like,
but
this is a small cast.
Yeah, but you're blind, so you probably have to.
yeah.
I was about to
I
say,
always
you
go
sit
to
at
the
the
back.
front for what reason, though?
I always went to the back of class. I'm like, straight
I
up the
got them
steps.
student disabilities, guys. I get the PowerPoints printed out.
Do you really?
Yes.
That's pretty dope.
Oh my gosh.
We
You
should
get-
say,
you-
just for clarification, Parker has like a what is it? Like
Optic nerve damage.
Yeah.
from drinking, right?
Yeah,
Drinking too much.
Aw.
it's cool.
You also get to register early, don't you?
Yeah, you get to register early.
You need to go
could have already
register.
signed up for classes.
That's pretty dope.
Yeah, you're part of SBS, right?
SDS.
Yes, SDS. Sorry.
That's student business.
Yeah, SDS, SBS. But yeah, you're recognized by SDS, right?
Yeah,
Then you get you get registration with the seniors. I forgot to tell you that the other day.
That's pretty dope.
I am a senior.
Well,
You
then
could have signed up
definitely-
Thursday.
Have you signed up for classes?
You Vince told me 10 on the 10th.
No, the 5th.
He told me, God,
We kind of got off track there, but I would just this made me pop in my head because Parker, you never went to jail, right? So it's weird that like you know I bet all of us in here have been to jail except for Parker. I don't know about you two. Have y'all been to jail
You
much?
been in jail
I have been in jail.
for like a day?
Well, okay.
For like a night?
Well-
A couple hours?
You got pee?
Okay.
Keep going.
No, okay, well, technically it was juvie because I got caught with weed at school, but our county jail was right across the street from the school. So they just like were like,
Beep.
walk him out in handcuffs and just take him across the
It
street.
counts.
Did you feel like a badass? Or were you like really embarrassed?
I was embarrassed, but then
He
I
thought
took,
he was
and then once I
badass.
like realized once I was like, I'm an addict, and I was like, I'm kind of like fucking awesome for that.
I'm kind of like a rebel.
Everybody was watching me.
That's what they do. They were all like in the fucking windows and shit. But
I had to go to DAP in junior high. It was right across the street, and they made us wear like white like collared shirts and like tucked into like nice jeans. And every morning, I would see all my friends going into class in the junior high, and I'd be going to the DAP building.
yeah.
So-
I think I don't know where you're going with that, Dan.
Well, I was just gonna say, like, we all have shit that, like, we have to carry with us that our addictions gave to us. Some of us it's a record, some of us it's physical, some of it's just emotional trauma. But it's just nobody gets out of this motherfucker for free. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. And then I've had like sponsees like, how many times you get arrested? Like trying to like or just like see if I'm qualified. Right. And like shit like that, and I'll tell them like, no, I've never been arrested, this and that. My family is great, you know, this, whatever. And I mean, it happened with the client back in September, who was kind of like questioning me,
checking you.
Yeah, and like I just kind of let him think whatever, and then I think another staff member told him or something. The next day he came up to me, he was like, "Damn, you were an alcoholic, huh?" I was like, yeah, but it was just because I didn't have a record and this and that they were just like, oh, we don't think he's an alcoholic or an addict.
Yeah, well, they qualify things like that, but I think they qualify it with things like jail time and traumatic experiences. But I think for people in your situation, you're much more qualified for somebody to help, right? Because it didn't take the trauma, the legal issues and all that shit for you to realize that, holy shit, I am a real deal alcoholic. You know what I mean? Like you were able to realize that without the other impacts. You know what I'm saying? Does that make sense?
I think I was just lucky that I didn't get any of that stuff.
Yeah.
Because I drove drunk for 6.5 years straight.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I think a lot of that was luck, but I think also, I don't know if God knew that wouldn't have worked for me if I would have just kept on going and was like, all right, let's fuck up your health.
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
And and it still took 8 months of me losing my vision and losing the feeling in my legs and stuff. I just kept on drinking. And finally one day I was like,
yeah, didn't you think it was something else?
I knew what it was.
You were justifying it as something else.
I convinced myself it was another disease. I convinced my family, even the neurologist I was seeing was like, oh, it's got to be Lyme disease. It's got to be this, and this, because I was just so adamant on that. I only had a few drinks a week, and they believed me, you know, and it was, but yeah, I mean, some people, it happens, you know, different things happen, and mine happened to be health and my vision, and it's hard too, because we will get clients that come through that they're starting to have neuropathy, and they're like, oh, my vision's not as good as it was, and like I try to explain to them, like, dog, stop. Like, it's only going to get worse. Like, this is your bottom right here. Like, you're not going to get arrested again. You might not, whatever, but you're going to continue to get more and more blind. And you're going to continue to where, like, before I got to treatment, I couldn't walk upstairs just because I could not feel my legs. Like, well, and I weighed 450 pounds, but that didn't help. But, like, I would try to tell them, like, yo, this is going to get worse. And they're just like, no, that's not that big of a deal.
Yeah, it seems like health issues always kind of, like, I didn't go to the dentist for like 6 years. You know what I mean? It's like when you're getting fucked up, which I know that's not nearly at all equivalent, right? But I'm just saying, like, whenever you're getting fucked up, like, it seems like your body is just invincible, right? Even whenever it starts telling you that it's not, it's the last thing, at least for me, that I worried about. Was my physical body.
Yeah.
And now I'm terrified to get old. I'm terrified to get hurt. I'm terrified about my teeth, about my everything. Like, this thing, we only have one, you know? We only get one body. And we ruin it for years without care. Oh, man. But.
So, like, we were talking about the center earlier. Have you guys explained what you guys want to do? Like, already on a previous episode?
With our lives?
Yeah.
I think so, kind of.
Okay.
I don't remember, but
I mean, well, I think we can. I mean, I know when the reason that we started the Cove was so that we can build a foundation for a company that will eventually blossom into, you know, sober livings all over the place, right? And then a clinical service somewhere where there needs a clinical service. I think, at least in my mind, it's all completely fluid for me, but whatever it ends up being is, I know that when I set out to do all of this work that we've started, that I want to eventually have another treatment center that can offer things that maybe haven't been offered before, right? And I think that's not a novel idea. I think there's hundreds of people that have had that idea. But I intend to work on this for the rest of my life. You know what I mean? I don't care if I'm 65 years old. Whenever it gets done, eventually it'll get done. You know what I mean? Right now, my goal is to build a foundation, give myself the experience to know how to run an operation like that, to understand addiction as it evolves with the times, understand the impact on the families, understand the impact on everything, and then eventually grow into something where we can have a diversified treatment center.
Right. And mine, we talked about this a couple years ago and at dinner one night, and mine's along the same lines, but I think I know Marcus wants us to finish school and get his degree, but I think my short-term focus and goals are finishing soon, so that whenever we do get to that point of opening up a clinical side and being able to help, that we actually have someone on staff that is licensed to do so.
Because you're under a year left, right?
I'll graduate in August. So that's been my main focus. That's where I think Marcus, or I don't know if he does, but I feel like he gets frustrated with me sometimes. So I'm not as hands-on. But I truly am trying to get really good grades so that I can get in a grad program and to make that happen. And now they're even making it easier to get into grad program. Well, not making it easier, but they're offering more. But that's really my goal, short-term goal. But our long-term goal is, yes, to spread our wings, go to different cities, open sober livings, and eventually open clinical services where they're needed, to continue to help people and eventually help people on a higher and higher level until we get to the highest level of care. And like Marcus said, it doesn't matter. We've talked about this. Well, where we'll be in 20 years. We're invested in this company.
I think it's shit. I forgot the fucking point I was gonna make. Damn it! I was going somewhere with that. I was going somewhere real good.
I'll say something. I envy that with you guys. That this is one of my passions, is recovery and helping people, and I'm on the same track as you guys. I plan to go for my LPC, go to grad school and stuff, and I am passionate about that. But music for me is my first passion, and it's way harder of a thing to do. The chances of me making it as a musician are not very great. I'm always gonna play, and my dream is to do counseling and play music and just be able to do both those things, kind of like I'm doing now. But I envy people that come into this thing and they realize how passionate they are about it, and then it becomes their career goals, and then it makes sense. And I don't mean to invalidate or say that you guys haven't worked hard, because you have. I mean, you guys started a company while you're in college and it's doing great, and but I envy that. That's something that I am passionate about it, but it's not my first passion, and I do worry sometimes if I will I look back and be like, man, I wish things would have been a little different. I don't know. I'm going to pursue both those things, but it's cool to see. And I commend you guys on the hard work that you've done. And it's really nice to see that you guys have found your passion and it's a clear path and you're already working towards it. You're already doing it. You guys both work at a sober living and you also own another one. And it's just cool to see. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it is cool. I remember where I was going with that. Is that we started this thing in January of this year. You know what I mean? And we've gotten the opportunity to grow a little bit. We've made some transitions, but I really feel like just in these 11 short months that we have at least given ourselves the confidence to continue this thing. If nothing else that we've done, aside from, you two guys, being a part of you two guys' journey, being a part of a few other guys' journey doing this, if nothing else, we've set a foundation for us to say, okay, we did this for 11 months. We've found a way to make it work. we know how it's going to work right now in this time in this city, we're comfortable now keeping this going and having like a solid footprint to continue going and to continue growing. And I see now that it works to have, at least I trust my intuition and Parker's intuition on choosing guys like you to be put in these situations, because I've seen y'all both in uncomfortable situations, stressful situations, overwhelming situations, and y'all both fielded them perfectly. You know what I mean? We get lots of clients, you know what I mean, and they don't always are. We're not batting 100 here. You know what I'm saying?
Not quite.
But you guys have handled it well, and that alone makes me comfortable with continuing to do this thing for years and years and years.
Here's a question for all four of y'all, and you can each take a turn answering it. But what has been like the hardest thing that you've had to go through in your position, as far as like maybe with a client or just anything?
Y'all two go first. Curious.
I mean, there's a few situations that come to mind. Man.
Have you ever had to kick anybody's ass?
No, we don't put hands on anybody.
Have you wanted to?
Just each other.
Yeah.
So there's
Inappropriately most of the time, freaking pervs.
So two situations come to mind, and I think one might be a little different, just because it was the setting.
Mm-hmm.
We had one client bring stuff to the house, and he was very unwilling to go to treatment, and eventually just got in his car and left. So that was uncomfortable because once it put other clients at risk because there was shit there.
Yeah.
The other one was difficult. It was me and you, and we were talking to a guy in his house, and it was very
Like his house, like not the Cove.
not the Cove.
His own residence. He had a local residence.
And so the us being there, him like kind of being a little unwilling, family, shit like that, just the whole situation was just stressful.
Yeah, we got dropped into a family, essentially, and we're doing what you would essentially pretty much refer to as a 12-step call.
Right.
Except it was a client of ours who was in our care who had relapsed. And it was very stressful, and I think, and that's one of the things that I thought of when I was talking about how you guys have handled things gracefully, was that situation with you specifically.
So he was a client with y'all. He had relapsed and went back to his family's home, and then you guys had to.
He had relapsed, and his wife called
Right on.
and said he's here and he's under the influence, right? And so we basically with her permission, we went over there and did our part on trying to convince him to follow through with relapse protocol and other things, because we have things in place for somebody relapses in our care, what we're going to do with them, right? It's not just like, all right, hit the streets, you know what I mean?
Kick rocks, motherfucker.
Yeah. It is if they don't want the help.
Right.
But if they want the help, we have protocols, and we understand that nobody in that state of mind wants the help right then and there.
Of course not.
So we were there for like 4 hours.
Yeah.
Kids were there. Wife was there. Sister-in-law was there. It was a lot. It was a lot. And like I said, I was in and out working with family, and Patrick basically just sat there and spoke reason to the guy for four fucking hours.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I think that was a big learning experience for both of us, really. But it was also kind of like this is real. This is right here in front of us, and this is what the reality of it looks like. This is what true delusion looks like.
And actually, I actually spoken to him recently. He's doing well. But I think the best part about that whole night was when we had left, he was in your back seat, and he was like, he asked me, he's like, was this what you wanted to be doing? Is this what you thought you'd be doing tonight? And I was like, no, but I wouldn't have it any other way.
Yeah, that was a pretty powerful experience. I remember that.
What about you, Phoenix? You got anything?
I haven't been house manager for very long, honestly. I haven't really experienced anything that was hard on me.
Yeah.
Maybe some like irritation when like you don't see somebody isn't getting, you can't get through to them. You know what I mean? They're so fucking delusional about like they just don't see anything wrong with what they're doing, and you just want to like shape them and slap the shit out of them. But like, you know, you just have to give them your input and send them on their way, because like they have to, I mean, we were talking about it earlier, like they have to hit their bottom.
Right.
You know what I mean? Nothing you say or do is going to help them if they don't see anything wrong with what they're doing. But to be honest with you, I mean, I haven't really experienced anything else. You know, I mean, the three guys that are at the house now are, they're a handful,
Yeah.
but they, and I feel like he got lucky. Like he got lucky. I feel like I kind of get like the.
I always talk about it. I'm like, every time I can, I'll bring it up to Phoenix. Be like, I fucking love the guys I have, because they do their shit, and they just you know, they do their stuff. They do what they're supposed to do, and some of that's age as well.
Yes.
Right. That's
Absolutely.
what it comes down to between the two houses. Like, so the guys at Phoenix's house over at Wilson, they all do what they're supposed to do.
Yeah,
Recovery wise,
Yeah.
they're all
Just everything
working
else.
a program, but they go from like very good at recovery, very strict on their recovery, to just like open as fuck. For the rest of their life,
Buck
just
wild,
wild.
dude. Fucking
Just bro everything.
Messy.
Yeah.
Shit like that. Yeah.
And I for me, I
Phoenix has like everything in his room, like makes his bed every morning. He has his books like from the size goes up to the smallest, like in a little mountain.
perfect.
Has like even his vape and his juices are all lined up perfect.
Labels facing forward. You know what I'm
Closet,
saying?
like everything.
Like
is
Stanley
perfect.
Kubrick in The Shining, just fucking.
It's just it's taught me a lot of patience, because I realized that not everybody was raised the way that I was, but I feel like I'm doing really well with like, hey, I realize that you might not know these things. Here's how you do this, and I'm always like, they always give me the most respect. Like, hey, I appreciate that. Like, if I have any other questions, like I'll come and ask you, type of thing, and like I appreciate that a lot. Like I feel like, yes, I've been able to give them a lot as far as like recovery goes, but like also just like being an adult kind of thing. Like
We talked about that last episode. Like, I showed a guy at Sober Living how to do laundry for the first time, and like a lot of guys come in.
I never did
I don't
laundry.
know.
Never before sober living.
Yeah. And I mean, whether it's because they had too good of a family who coddled them, or they had too shitty of a family that they didn't have any kind of normalcy in their life. It's just like a lot of guys get into sober living, and they have to learn how to fucking be a human. You know what I mean? Like, it's just part of it.
yeah.
And I didn't know, like, this is what it was going to look like. What is it? 15, 16 months in. I had no idea this is what it was going to look like. But, like, for me, like, this is what I'm committed to. I'm committed to growing this company as long as they'll allow me to, and invest in that in any way, shape, or form. We kind of talked about goals, and I'll pass it on to Phoenix here in a second, because I think it's. I want to go first because I will sound like a bitch if he goes first. Because his stuff is way
Are you
more
talking about Parker?
No,
you.
Oh, I was like, damn, dude.
Your stuff's way more thought out than.
I mean, he is.
I don't know. It's but anyways, like this is like what I wanted to do. That goal of getting to the center, and obviously that short-term goal of getting my degree. But I've like my minimum right now is like getting that LCDC, getting my master's, and being able to counsel other people, and working in the field, obviously, and then continuing to do this for as long as possible. But like when I really sat there and I was like, what do I really want? What's the really big picture when I step back and look at it? And it came down to, what position can I put myself into to help the most amount of people? Like, how does that look? And for me, I kind of went through and just kind of brainstormed. Was like, I think it would just be being a doctor, research, investing in treatment facilities, and having like a say in, not a say, but having me hands on.
Your research.
Yeah, my research like implemented into stuff that goes on in the world, and helping other people. And I think that's as broad as I could get it in my head, and still helping with treatment facilities and owning my own and owning sober livings and stuff like that. But not being one of those people that just says like, hey, I put you in charge, now you just go and do it. Yeah. Still be like that resource to people. Even though I may own it, that's kind of the goal, that I'm still there. I still show up. I still do what I'm supposed to do. I interact with people because that's where I get my medicine. My medicine is helping the person with 2 days, 1 day, just anything, just helping them. So that's like what I want to do, and that's kind of like this through this program, and especially with the opportunity I have at the Cove is, man, it kind of just solidified. This is what I want to do with my life, helping other people, and doing it, hopefully, if I keep my grades up, to do it on a mass level. So that's kind of what it was for me. Is just how can I help the most amount of people. And I'll pass it over on to Phoenix here.
Well, actually, Parker didn't get a chance to talk about your worst thing you've dealt with.
Oh.
If you don't
I'm sure there's been a lot.
One that sticks out in your mind, maybe.
One thing that's like working in this field, that I didn't like understand when I first started, but now it happens so often, is even when they leave our care, we're still called to help, by family members, by them themselves, by friends. So we had a guy months ago, was very intoxicated. Marcus and I ended up having to take him to the hospital. Almost didn't survive.
Jeez.
That was very difficult. But the hardest part, I think, was the few months after, where he continued to relapse, go back to treatment, relapse, go to another sober living, relapse, go back to treatment. And then even, I don't remember, it was probably 3 months later, I get a call, and even in those few months, like his mom and dad are still calling me, like asking if there's anything I can do to help, if I can talk to him again, can I put him in touch with somebody else? And then a few months after he left us, we got him back to treatment. His mom calls me. It's like 6 o'clock in the evening. Sitting there doing homework at the house, and she calls and she's struggling with him. Mom, dad, and brother are there. So I go over there to help. Find all kinds of alcohol, find all kinds of drugs in the house. He's already loaded. And then it's just trying to calm them down, trying to get them to reason with them, trying to convince them and to get them understand that, like, this is not the way they're supposed to be doing. We need to get back to treatment. Look at your family. They're all fucking in tears. And this drug on for 6 hours. By the end of it, he ended up calling the cops on me, because I wouldn't let him get in his truck and drive away after I watched him fucking down a handle of vodka and snort some lines of coke and shit like it. And so I got standing blocking his door. His mom standing there with me. Dad and brother already gave up and drove off and left. And this was like the closest like I had ever been to like putting my hands on somebody, because he made his mom flinch.
Jesus.
Whenever I wouldn't let him get to his door, and she was just like, he's trying to help you this and that, and so like he went at her like he was gonna punch her, and like immediately like I felt like my arms go up, I was like, okay, that's not going to make the situation better. But then he eventually called the cops on me. The cops show up. It was really weird. The cops listened to him but didn't even question me or his mom for like 30 minutes. So they're like telling us to leave. It was really weird. But eventually, like, they talked to him, and he said he wasn't harmed anybody, this or that. They couldn't do anything about it. So we ended up staying there for another hour. Mom ended up calling me like 2 more times in the middle of the night. Just all kinds of stuff. Just like him hallucinating, him thinking there's rats, just all kinds of crazy stuff. But it's just, that's when I realized like how like long after like their families, and they'll continue to ask for help. It had been months, and mom and dad didn't know who else to look towards. So that one was very difficult. Like time and energy wise, but like Pat said, like I didn't once think about like, oh, well, let's just fucking hurry up so I can go home and sleep.
Yeah.
You know, it's like what can I, my whole thought process every time was like, what can I say next to make him think different? What can I say next to get him to realize something? But that one, like I said, he was no longer our client. But he was a client at one time that needed help. So like, of course we were going to help, you know?
Yeah. I talked to you guys about this when I saw y'all this past weekend, but I just went through something that I'm working inpatient treatment. I've only been doing it a few months. And this is the first time this has happened to me, but somebody that I went through IOP with, somebody that I've known only as a sober person. I was there, you know, they lived upstairs above me in sober living. Like, dude gave me rides all the time. Like, was one of my good friends, still is, love the dude to death, but he ended up in treatment. And it was kind of a weird situation because I was at a buddy's birthday party and they were all drinking except for me and a couple of people that are sober too. We were just all hanging out. So I was around drunk people. I leave to go to work and I get there and there's this guy I've known for years and he's there drunk and he's just came in. And this dude's fucking jacked. Like, he's the most jacked dude I know. Like, totally capable of whipping anybody I know's ass. Like, and he like, I see him like, hey, what's up? You know, talk to him for a second. He's super drunk, slurring his words. And then he goes, you liberal commie bastard, you're trying to ruin the world for my son. And I just like what? Like, and I thought this dude was going to swing on me, you know? But it was a weird just feeling that it gave me, like, you know, and I talked to these guys about it, like seeing somebody that I've only known sober, see them relapse, see them back in treatment, and I'm there as the RA, you know, like, and I have to tell them like what to do or what. And it's not really that hard or anything. Doing great, super great guy. Once he's sobered up, everything's fine. But it is like super. It's weird. It's a weird thing to go through emotionally, and it's, you know, I'm sure that all of you can relate to this when you're in the 12-step call or seeing somebody in a relapse or any of that. Like, the furthest fucking thing from your mind is like, you know, using or anything like that. It makes you so fucking grateful to be sober, to be where you're at, to be like, oh my God, there's a pit of hell right there. Like, I remember that, you know what I mean? It's, and it's so important to do those things because it reminds us of where we once were, you know what I mean? And that's where sponsorship comes into. You see somebody who's newly sober and you see the look in their eyes and the desperation that they have and the pain that they're still feeling from, you know, all the trauma that they've done and all the terrible things they've, you know, put themselves through. And it's so important to, like, to stay in this thing is, like, to be there for those people, to help them, but it also helps you, and it also, like, you know, reminds you, like, hell is fucking right there, you know? I don't know if you guys can relate to that.
Yeah, like, we were at the 1 a.m. the other night, and it was kind of like part of one of the topics. And I was like, in those moments, like, I'm like, oh my God, like, what? At first, I'm like, oh my God, what do I say? How do I not, like, fuck up this person? Like, what if I say something horribly wrong and it spins up? And the thing I've just started telling myself is just shut the fuck up. I tell myself, just shut up. You know, whatever it takes, sit there for a second, get connected with God, and then the rest will flow. And I think that's what it's been. It's just like I turn my brain off, because when I'm connected with God, that's when, you know, His grace shines through. I'm just the vessel. I'm not doing anything special. You know, it's God working through me to help this other person. I think that's been, you know, a spiritual experience every time I do it, is because it's just like I didn't think about what I was going to say. I just said it, and it worked out because I wasn't involved. When I put myself in the situation, I think about it too much, it's going to go to shit quick.
I think something that I thought about while you were talking was, so I went to my hometown and I picked somebody up and I brought them to treatment here, and you know I mean we talked the whole time here, and I was kind of like explaining how, you know, treatment works and like what happens after and this and that, but like not trying to like overload them because I didn't want to like freak them out or anything, and like there were like a few specific things that I told this person not to do, because it's what I did, and it fucked me up really bad. And so this person goes to treatment, and they get out, and they seem really well for the first week, and they immediately start doing the thing that I told them not to do.
Right.
And I'm like, how do I save this person? And I realize that I can't. And that really bothers me because I love this person, right? You know, I care about them, and I want them to thrive and survive in life and stuff like that. But like when they... And I realized, you know, it was the same with one of the clients that we had not too long ago. Like, nothing that I say is gonna get through to them. Like I have to let them hit their bottom, and do the things that like they know are like they're not supposed to be doing, and will eventually, like I believe, will lead to their downfall. Like that's just the way that it works. That's what I've seen time and time again. I fucking did it. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So it's hard. Sometimes it's hard for me to like when it comes to like people that I know personally, that I knew like back in the day or whatever. Like I want to give them what I have, but like you can't give somebody something that like they're not putting their hands out for, you know what I mean? Like they're just gonna drop, like they'll just drop it, you know what I mean? They don't want it, and sometimes it's hard for me to sit back and just watch, because I know it's gonna turn out to be like a big shit show, but like maybe that's what they need, and I hope they survive it, and I hope they come back and realize, wow, you were right. These are the things that I'm gonna do now instead of all the things that you told me not to do. You know what I mean?
All you can do sometimes is just love a person at a distance.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I think that goes back to what we were talking about with Pat and the families earlier, is just creating that distance, setting those boundaries. And you had asked me something during that situation. I can't remember exactly how you worded it, but if I ever thought, I think it was something along the lines of if I ever like carried any of that with me or something like that. Do you remember what you asked?
Yeah, so I asked you if it makes you a bad person to kind of like detach and be like, well, good luck out there. You know what I mean? That kind of thing.
Yeah, and I remember that specifically now, and I think because my bad experience is not one specific time. I think it's just the series of conversations I've had with families that's really sunk in with me, because I think from the get-go I got decent at that, detaching from what was happening in the moment. And sometimes I get heated, right? And I do get emotional, and I may say something a little bit off the wall, but as soon as it comes out of my mouth and as soon as I step away from that situation, it's gone. Like I'm able to really compartmentalize that in a way that it doesn't affect me anymore. I may carry it for an hour or two afterwards, but as soon as I kind of let my frustrations out in whatever form that may be, it's gone. Like I'm able to really compartmentalize well with the clients. What I carry and what I sometimes really struggle with in my difficulties in this field is, you know, speaking to parents a lot and being on the phone with a mother who's crying or a father who's crying. It's, you know, asking those questions. What do I do? What do I need to do for this person? What do I need to do for my son, for whatever the situation may be? How do I handle this? And I can give the direction that I know, but regardless of how confident I am in that direction working, I'm always like very reserved on what I say, because I don't want to give somebody some sort of promise or something like that. And that's what I always feel like, because it's just like I said earlier, they're looking for somebody to fix, right? And we're not repairmen. We're, you know what I mean? We're helpers, and we can only help. Like you said, if you give somebody something and their hand isn't stretched out to receive it, it's going to hit the ground. And unfortunately, a lot of the time in this profession, it hits the ground. Our words, our actions, our efforts, they slip through the cracks and they hit the ground, and that's really unfortunate. But the reality is, like, they have to want it just as much as we do. The problem is their family wants it as much as we do. Their moms want it, their dads want it, their husbands and their wives, and whatever the case may be, they want it just as much as we do. And that's what I struggle with, I think, is not being able to deliver on that sometimes. And as much as I know that I have no obligation to deliver those results, or I have no like capability to do that, I still carry that kind of burden of like, there's got to be there's a scientific way that I can figure this out, or there's like some pattern that's going to work for the majority of the people, or, you know. And so I'm constantly trying different things with different people, trying to figure out like the specific sequence of pressure and then detachment and pressure and detachment, and like, you know, giving somebody ultimatums and giving somebody options, and then basically just giving them the boot. You know what I mean? Like, there's always these different things that I'm trying to see if there's a way that works universally, and there's not. You know, maybe there's some sort of pattern that works great, but I haven't found it yet.
I think you're right. Like, that is definitely one of the hardest things, like, that I've had to deal with as well, is talking to families. And what makes it hard too is that they're just as sick. Yeah. And they don't know how this works. They don't go to school for this. They aren't an addict. They don't work in this field. Like, so it's hard to see them go through that, and it also makes it hard when you try to give them the answer and they don't take it. That's why I commend your parents, both of y'all's parents, is because they listened to the advice and they did it. They're just like, all right, no more. Y'all are on y'all's own. But talking to parents, man, that's hard, because, like you said, they want it just as much as we want it for their kid, and then sometimes the kid doesn't even want it at all. And I mean, that's how it was with that situation that I was talking about. You know, the family wanted it for the past couple of years, and he never once wanted it. That's
one of the more difficult things that I deal with. Probably the most difficult thing I deal with in this. And that's why I think education is so important, like we talked about earlier with Patrick. And the person I'm seeing now, had this conversation with her last night about how paramount education for families really is. Yeah, I realized one side of my mic is a lot hotter than the other, right?
Yeah, you moved around or something. And
well,
like mic got turned.
If I speak on this side.
Yeah, it's not omnidirectional. It's
I didn't know that. But anyways. Yeah. And that concept of education is just so I don't know what any of those words mean. I know how to get people sober. I don't know shit about this fucking mic.
The transhibitor is liberated in the carburetor.
Well, it was on this side of it. I was like, I can't hear myself at all. But let's move to this side. But great.
Like, what a fucking idiot.
But this conversation I had last night and this conversation we're having right now, like it really highlights the fact that those of us that are working in the recovery field really need to have a focus on the family perspective, right? The mothers, the fathers, the sons, the daughters, brothers and sisters, everybody that's associated with, because it is a family disease. We learn that in school. There's a very good explanation on how it's a family disease. It makes perfect sense when you hear it. But sometimes that's too much information to throw at a mom who's just saying, just fix my fucking son. You know what I mean? Yeah. And so finding a way to deliver that message and compact the lectures and lectures and lectures that we hear over this disease model of addiction and how it affects the family, compact all of that into a very short elevator speech that makes sense. You know what I mean? And what I've understood is that Dr. Shumway's research on the brain scans, the whatever it is, can't remember what kind of imaging it is that they've done, where whenever I look at a drink or a drug, a certain part of my brain lights up, and it's the pleasure centers of my brain, right? And it's what's going to make me feel okay. Well, my mom looks at me, that same part of her brain lights up, because it's what she's going to, me being okay is what's going to make her okay. You know what I mean? And there's a lot of codependency in that, but everybody's family is codependent on one another to a certain extent. You know what I mean? My mom's never wanted anything but the best things for me, and that is, in fact, some level of codependency, right? But that's what I've been able to do, what I've learned from Dr. Shumway's research, and I think it's cool that you brought up that you want to do research too, because you're going to develop things like that too, where that was never known. People never knew that moms and dads reacted to their sons and daughters the same way that we react to our drugs. Mm-hmm. That's a newfound thing recently, and you're going to discover things like that, and eventually we're going to have a better understanding. But I think that level of research, that one specific thing, for me, compacted all of those lectures that I had learned in understanding the family dynamics, understanding the family roles, all the different things that they throw at us, and they put up on these big projector screens, and they say all these fancy words in these 13 hours or whatever, that we learn all this stuff, and we're developing all these different concepts in class, and we're hours and hours and hours and hours of reading and writing and listening. All it takes is for you to understand that your brain works the same way. That person is your drug of choice. That really struck like a chord with me with that research.
And like you guys have one side of it. Like you guys interact with the families a little more than we do. But I actually had this conversation with a guy who recently left because his mother was worried about him. She contacted you contacted me, I contacted him. Mm-hmm. And he was just all up in arms about, oh, why can't I just be okay? It's fine to, why can't she just understand that I'm doing well? And I was able to have that conversation with him on the flip side, trying to get him to view it. It was like, just like it was you getting rid of drugs, like you are her drug of choice. Mm-hmm. And it's going to be hard for her, no matter what. And just like trying to have the addict see that side of it. Because we're used to the one perspective, and that's our perspective. And we're not used to having to see it through someone else in a different way. It's just, and it's kind of cool having that conversation with those people and helping them understand that, what that dynamic looks like and why it works that way. And that it's just something we have to accept on our side, that's how our parents are going to be. Because that they do only want the best thing for us. And when we start feeling good, that doesn't mean they're doing all right. Just because we're doing well, they aren't inside our heads. They aren't working our program. They don't know everything. They aren't with us all the time, so they just don't know. I think that was, and I've gone through this too. It's like, Mom, why do you keep fucking calling me every day? Because she's worried. Yeah. She's not here. She doesn't go to all the meetings I do. She doesn't meet up with my sponsors. She doesn't, So it's cool to have that conversation with guys and get them to understand that it's a two-way street in that aspect.
Mm-hmm. Your success brings her the same pleasure that.
Yeah, and even when you feel like you're doing all right, and maybe you have that one down day, and they freak out, that's not the end of the world. And you have to look at it from their perspective. Like, she doesn't know that you're doing really well and you just have this one kind of down day. Yeah. That's not how she views it. That's not how you would view it if you were on the other side either. So it's a lot of, and trying to like put all that information into one person's brain at one time is a lot. Yeah,
that's what I was getting at. It was like, even, and I'm glad you brought up the recovering person side of it, because that's I kind of lose sight of that too, because I deal with so much of the families. Like, I lose track on what they're dealing with too. And I think it's important to take that same amount of information, because we can talk about the disease model of addiction and the allergy and how hedonic set point, different levels of dopamine and all this crazy shit that they like I said throw at you on lectures, and how you understand the science behind addiction to a higher level. You can't throw that at somebody that's 30 days clean and expect them to understand what the fuck's going on with their brain. You know what I mean?
Right.
I remember when I learned about the wall and like how our serotonin, like we hit the pink cloud when we first get sober. Our serotonin, like it's like reuptaking. It's like giving us so much, and then we hit the wall where our serotonin like drops because it's like finally trying to regulate, and that's where a lot of people relapse. And I remember like learning about that in IOP, and I was like scared as fuck.
Yeah.
I was like, oh my god, am I gonna fucking die? Like, you know what I mean?
Have another come down.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And that's so much information that we probably don't need until we're, to a point where it's like, oh shit, well, this isn't happening to me anymore. It's a year later, everything's kind of balanced out, and we understand that we're okay now, right? And we have a clear fucking mind to understand this stuff. But so maybe it's something you need to work on, is like developing, all these different, this ADR's 2310 that you're taking right now, take all of that information.
It's a great class.
And put it in a little elevator speech that you can give to an addict that's struggling with that concept of, I don't know why my mom won't stop calling me. I don't know why, I don't know why I can't experience the promises. I don't know why you guys can't just leave me alone. Like, I kept hearing the other night, in your opinion, this is what I'm doing. In your opinion, like, listen, bro, it ain't my fucking opinion. This is what it is. It is what it is. Like, it's not necessarily my opinion. It
is what it is.
It is what I think, and that's, and again, in that class, like there's sometimes we have Zoom calls, and then we'll get put out in a little breakout room, and all these people will be throwing out these ideas, and I'm just like, oh my god, these fucking idiots. But they're normal people, so they don't understand. And I'm sitting there trying to explain it to them, and I lay it out. I'm like, this is how it is. And they're like, well, I'm like, dude, no, this is how it is. And it's just like, oh my god. And I get so frustrated, and it's just like, that's just how it is. Mm-hmm. It's a lot of information that like I've known through the process that I can't just make
Mm-hmm.
And it's going to happen with family, it's going to happen with addicts, it's going to happen with normal people, it's going to happen at over 100 different topics.
Yeah.
So it's good to get that experience now, and you've talked about this with me, the experiences that we have with people in addiction in this process, working in treatment, blows these classes that we're taking out of the water. We're gaining so much more experience than the classes could ever give you.
Yeah. The class doesn't show you how to find somebody with drugs in their pocket. You know what I mean, or anything like that. But it helps you. Go ahead.
I was gonna say we had a professor last semester that literally told me that.
What?
She was like, y'all are getting more.
Oh yeah.
Experience and gaining more knowledge than you will in this class.
I think working in treatment and going to school for treatment recovery or treatment studies, addiction studies, whatever you want to call it, I think that's an incredible combination, because we get both sides of it, right? We get the scientific, the research, the very in-depth information that these people are spending hours and hours and hours looking into, and they're delivering it to us in a spoon-fed form, right? We're getting small pieces of information every week, but then at the same time, we're running into the actual person that we're learning about, because regardless of whether it's, addict number 1,276, it's the same as 1,275, you know what I mean? Like, there's variables between people, but the basis of it is the same. And that's what the classes are talking about, is the scientific part of it that's relatively similar across the board. And then we see the people, and it's like, man, you think you're unique. You think you're different than everybody else, but not necessarily. I'm not unique from any other addict out there. And I thought the same thing. But let me tell you for a minute, not only have I seen this from everybody else that I've dealt with in my own life, but now we're learning about it in class too, how it's really just a brain problem. It comes down to the levels of all the different shit that's going on in your brain, biopsychosocial, all this crazy stuff that they throw at us. And it's like, holy shit, it finally makes sense that it's really that there's ups and downs, there's variables, but for the most part, you can adapt a treatment program to the vast majority of addicts, right? But you're right. We're getting like.
But addiction isn't a disease. And Trump is still my president.
Whoa.
But it has been cool to go to class and in the same day use the knowledge I learned that day in class on a client.
Yeah.
That's
I'm
happened to
just
me,
like,
too.
oh, I learned about this 2 hours ago.
Yeah.
Let me learn you something real quick.
I think I had because I was taking a relationships class, and I think I used it on you one time. What? Yeah. I think we had a conversation one time about a relationship. I don't remember if it was you or somebody else.
I think I remember.
Yeah. We talked about like some sort of relationship, and I don't even remember any of it now. The concept in class, and I'm sure at some point that knowledge will come to the front of my head when I need it. But right now I can't remember what the fuck we're talking about. But we talked about something in class, and then like 2 days later I talked to Patrick about the same concept, and I was like, let me tell you something I know that I learned not too long ago.
That happened to me. Same deal. I'm in the addiction relationships class right now, and I was talking to a client the other night about how like the same chemicals happen like for drugs and sex, and like that's why sex and dating is so tricky in early recovery is because it can trigger some of those same feelings and the same chemicals in your brain, and it can slip you up.
Yeah, we saw that develop recently. You know what I mean? That concept of like, hey, a person can just be just as much of a drug as a substance. You know what I mean?
Oh, man. Crap.
And that's what he's talking about. That level of delusion, I think, is probably what he was referring to. Is that
I've fucking been there, dude.
particular scenario?
I'm so grateful for my situation.
Yeah, no shit.
I'm waiting a year before I start dating.
It's
At
awesome,
least.
dude. I tell sponsees that like it's
Hey, it's
awesome.
the way to go.
Yeah,
bro.
look at this guy. He did it, and he's fucking engaged now.
He's still a piece of shit, but
Shit.
But I think the concept that you were
She's
talking about,
accepted me.
she's accepted, right? For now. We still got a couple of months until it's official, and then you still got like what 30 days for an annulment. I
Yep.
mean, there's a lot of time left.
yeah.
You could fuck this up real good.
I'm gonna go home. Just be like,
She's packed and gone.
Start writing country songs. She took the dog.
Oh yeah, she's gonna take your dog. Probably leave you hers. He's like, I gotta go, guys.
I was just look at my call and be like, you cheating on me? Everything all right?
Sometimes I'll fuck with my girl and I go over there. I open the closet door. Goes, where is he? And just-
But I think that the concept that you were talking about is basically, I think, and kind of what I was trying to get into earlier was the amount of knowledge that we get to develop in kind of going to school and working in this is something I don't think you can get really anywhere else. You know what I mean? I really don't. Because just in that situation, like, if you would have gone and waited until you graduated to actually go work in the field, you were going to forget that concept, right? Like, it may have kind of come out, but in that moment it was clear. And so not only were you able to use it in real time, but you were able to solidify it in your own mind as fact. You know what I mean? Because then you're, learning something and reading about it and having conversation about it is one thing, but I feel like in the learning experience it's really, like, I guess, imprinted in your brain and made fact when you turn around and use it
Straight
in
up.
real
That's
world
how I
application.
learned.
Yeah, putting it
Yeah.
in practice.
I mean-
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I mean, I have a friend of mine that calls me from back home because she's kind of doing the same stuff. And she'll just, like, call me and be like, hey, I got to do this project. I got to write this paper. I'm just like, all right, what you got? It's like,
And having a little bit of a discourse on it.
yeah, and just, like, I don't want to toot my own horn, but, like, I've got, like, I haven't, so far, I'm, like, shooting 100% on points. Like, it's just, and it has nothing to do, like, with what I've learned. It has everything to do with just what I've experienced.
Yeah, getting that real world experience, seeing the actual addict do the things that they're telling you that the addicts are going to do, or have the concepts with relationships or family dynamics or whatever other class we take. I mean, all of them so far have given us an opportunity to see and learn in real time. You know what I mean? And I'm really grateful for that, because, and I lose sight of that sometimes too, especially this year with everything being online. We don't get to have, like, the discourse. Like, my eating disorders class, it sucks because it's all online, and she just talks at us. But I know that if I was taking this in any other context, I would actually be learning a lot about eating disorders. Yeah. And I would be recognizing it in a lot of people that I see and that I work with and myself.
My fat ass.
I thought those were a myth.
Yes, eating disorders are fake and they're a myth.
No, that's what I thought.
I was actually, when I said people in my life, I was referring directly to Pat, and I wasn't going to say anything.
Wow.
But they interjected, so.
I'm very excited to see Phoenix go through this.
Oh, I am too.
To start with school and.
He's like a little baby bird.
Well, the thing, he fucking absorbs everything. You know, especially with his sponsor. Mm-hmm. Throws fucking million words at you a second.
Yeah.
But just like the knowledge he's gained, and I'll tell him something, and then I'll hear him saying it to somebody else. I'm just like, damn. He absorbs everything, and it's going to be cool to see him go learn what we've learned in class, and then apply it to the guys at the house.
I feel I feel very grateful that I haven't gotten in yet, that I'm not starting school yet, but all three of you guys are, and Kendall's in school, and so I'm constantly interacting with people who are like a part of the center and like going to Texas Tech and stuff, and like as much like anxiety as it gives me to start school, like I know that when I do, like I'll have like a lot of people around me that like experience what I'm about to go through, like, you know, I can ask for help.
Straight up, dude. Like the amount of help that you'll get from everybody, because that's like the CFAS program is what most people in the center are going for, and everybody's taking the classes already. And so literally, sometimes some people are like, "Yeah, I have the paper that I wrote last semester. Let me send it to you," and then you can just kind of, it's really helpful. And like, I understand the anxiety, and I felt the same way. And then I don't know about this too, but I really enjoyed learning. I didn't realize that till I went back to school, and it sounds like you do too.
Yeah.
I think it'll be even better when we're not online.
Yeah, way better.
You guys have experienced it, but this is my first semester. And the grad assistant in our seminar was like, I don't know if I would have made it if it was all online.
Way fucking harder. It is all on you when it's online. Like it sucks, dude.
Like I told Phoenix, actually, in one of my classes. Sorry, Mom. I haven't done literally a single quiz.
Yeah.
I've missed. I just because it's all on me, and it's on the one day I don't have anything else to do. That class, just for some reason, those quizzes are on a different day.
Yep.
And it's the same day as the house meeting, and I just like haven't done any. I still have a good grade in the class, but like.
Yeah.
I have one class that's got all its quizzes on Wednesday, but the class is on Tuesday and Thursday. And I have no other assignments due on Wednesday. It's the only thing due on Wednesday, and I've missed probably half of the quizzes in that class.
I feel like
I'm good at online classes.
Yeah, you do good. I don't know how you do that. You're a freaking psychopath.
But this semester has been very difficult. It's been almost too much.
Yeah.
Because I enjoy like sitting down and reading it myself, and I'll get lost in what the professor's saying. I'll look at Marcus and make a funny face out of his class, or like pinch his ass or something, and I'll lose track.
Sexual assault in class is fun.
Yeah.
But but whenever I'm doing it online, like I've done really well, and I'm still doing well this semester, but I'm not retaining as much as I have in the past, and I know it's hard for me who enjoys and does well in online classes, so I know it's hard for people who absolutely cannot do online classes.
Yeah, I think, and I've said it before with people in recovery, getting clean this year, starting school this year, staying in school this year. This year is going to really develop some very extremely resilient people. It really is. Because there's times where I just want to give the fuck up on school, on work, on everything. Like I'll find myself not wanting to get out of bed, and it's 10 a.m. on a Tuesday. You know what I mean? Or I guess not Tuesday. I was at work on Tuesdays, but on like a Monday. Like shut up.
I just went to bed at 10 a.m.
Yeah, well, yeah, you're messed up.
You're just a psycho.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean, this year will really develop some resilient people with recovery, with school, with people who are putting their efforts in at work, whatever you're doing. This year will really, really, really create resilient folks. So hats off to everybody that's starting school, going to school, whatever it may be. Hopefully some of this stuff subsides now that we've got a new president. and we can
Gets it.
and we can, hopefully we get some semblance of normalcy get back. But I'm grateful for all the things that we've been able to get to this point. I'm grateful for the center for offering the resources even through these difficult times. I'm grateful for the university for allowing us to do this. I'm grateful for this Lubbock recovery community that we've learned so much about, that we are going to continue to grow. And I'm grateful for each and every one of you guys.
Grateful for you too, dog.
But I think that's...
Well, we're over 2 hours, so I mean, we can wrap it up there.
I'm hot in here.
Yeah.
I was just about to look over you.
Yeah,
It's
you are.
starting.
You're wearing a friggin' hoodie, dude.
Starting.
Yeah.
It's-
All right, let's.
Well, I wore a gray shirt, so I'm fucked either way. It doesn't matter.
Let's go around the room. Marcus started it. Everybody say one thing they're grateful for. Pat, you're next.
I'm grateful for every time I fucked up.
Okay.
Phoenix?
And not just
Oh, go ahead.
fucked up. It's like, because I can accept failure, but like fucking up and learning from it. Not just being like, oh, it's such a bad thing that happened. Looking at it as a good thing, because anything that can be perceived as bad, there's a lesson behind it. And I can't accept not learning from it.
I think I'd have to say I'm grateful to be different. I'm grateful for who I am, honestly.
I'm grateful for, one, finding my higher power again. Without finding my higher power again, I wouldn't have gratitude whatsoever. And what came from that as well is grace, man. Having grace for myself, because in the past I never did. Even in early recovery, I didn't. So it's very important to me, and I'm very grateful for my higher power of showing me this and showing me how to show grace to myself.
I'll go last, I guess. I'll kind of piggyback off yours, but I'm just grateful for second chances. Like I went through a really gnarly dry spell for about a year there, and it kind of ended like maybe 5-6 months ago, and I wasn't connected at all to the program, to my higher power, nothing. And I've had a second chance in getting sober, but I've had second and third and fourth chances of getting connected again when I've been dry, because like a lot of people get that way and they relapse, and I didn't. And I'm just, that's what I'm grateful for. You want to close this out, Marcus?
I appreciate everybody being here. I'm excited about the when we start releasing these things, and I can't wait to see what this turns into. Thank you guys.
Thanks, y'all.
Thanks. What? What are you